Good afternoon, everyone, Mr. President, dear friends, dear Volodymyr. Welcome to Oslo today, friend. Norway congratulates the friendly country Ukraine. This is the second time you have come to us, Mr. President, since the beginning of the full-scale Russian invasion in February 2022. And we've met often, we're constantly in touch, and we really share your struggle. I met with you in Kiev a few weeks ago. We met in London recently. Therefore, we now have very close contact between European allies and partners. And let me repeat, on behalf of all Norwegian political life, that you impress us with your leadership, your resilience and your constant struggle for Ukraine's independence and sovereignty. And in that sense, you're also fighting for values, which are very important for all of us. We just had several hours of negotiations to continue that contact, which we have on an ongoing basis. And let me give you the main topics of our discussion. First, we share your goal, independent, free and sovereign state of Ukraine. I know that no one wants peace more than you. No one wants peace more than the Ukrainian people, who suffers from attacks, struggles, losses and pain. And your struggle and right to self-defense have full support from day one. And we are approaching this in the same way now. We work closely together in sectors such as energy, technology, and defense. We have just increased this assistance significantly. And, secondly, we fully support your efforts to obtain a ceasefire, and then negotiating for a just and lasting peace, a fair peace. Ukraine must be in the best position to cope with the end of this conflict, and must have a place at the table when such decisions will be made. We encourage your engagement with the United States and President Trump. Your communication with him, with European partners, the French and British leadership, leaders within European NATO countries. And we believe that a strong European voice should sound when it comes to the European future. You came from Finland. Finland and Norway are close partners. The President of Finland and I are working closely to support you, our prospects in Europe. And, thirdly, the President briefed me on a specific situation. What is there now? What is happening? What are the needs, urgent, short-term and long-term? And let me say that the tripling of Norwegian defense support, which was unanimously supported by Parliament, it will now be immediately transferred to support with artillery, ammunition, drones, and investments in Ukraine's own production base. So, Mr. President, this is a partnership that we are working on every day. You can count on this support. It is the right of a sovereign country to fight against aggression. You have our full support in this fight. And once again, you are among friends, and I am very glad to see you here. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And I do this with great gratitude to your country, to people, to you personally, dear Mr. Prime Minister, dear attendees, dear journalists, dear Norway, thank you for this support, for our joint work, for our meeting today. This is a very warm and very substantive meeting, very useful. Norway during the 3 years of the entire war is absolutely essential. We don't forget it and we won't forget it. Norway is absolutely fundamentally on the side of justice, common sense, on the side of protecting life. You immediately understood what was happening. We have talked about this many times. What this war really carries and brought. What Russia has brought to our homes. And so we can thank you for your very, very significant support. Financial support. It helped. It helped us a lot. Our resilience. I am especially grateful for the energy support. I appeal to you, dear Prime Minister. And we are very grateful that Norway supported us in this. It helped us survive the winters during this war. These were some of the most difficult challenges. When Russia made our energy system a target. But the Ukrainians survived. We have managed to provide our basic necessities for our people. We were able to maintain our independence now together with everyone in Europe. We are working to restore peace, guarantee security, which we need so much. I hope that Norway's role in this will continue to be tangible in this work of ours with all partners. Regarding diplomacy now and future security guarantees, Europe, America, all our partners in the world must work together. I hope that Norway will be part of the effort to guarantee security. And now I want to note your recent decision. Norway to increase support for Ukraine this year to almost $8 billion today. It really gives us long-term confidence. This is a very strong, very serious contribution. This is especially important at such a moment, when diplomacy became much more active to end this war. Indeed, I agree with you. Indeed, it is very important that Ukraine is in excellent shape and stable in these diplomatic steps. I thank you so much for what you do, dear Jonas. We emphasize that only in really strong positions of Ukraine is strong diplomatic work possible, and a truly reliable end to the war. And we want this more than anyone else in the world. Which is fair, because the war is on the territory of our land, our country. We need to continue pressure on Russia in order to, so that Putin stops manipulating, takes concrete steps, that the whole world wants. In particular, one of the first such steps should be silence. Yes, now we're talking. And the United States and other partners. Silence in the sky. There may be an end to strikes on energy, an end to strikes on people, civilian infrastructure, a ceasefire at sea. Really safe navigation can be considered. We must also come to a ceasefire everywhere. Everywhere on the territory of our country. These are important steps by all parties. But first of all, everyone saw that Ukraine unconditionally agrees to this. And we are waiting for the aggressor to agree to this. At least, we also expect partners to put pressure on Russia. Of course, the return of prisoners of war, the return of our civilians is important for us. The return of all people, the return of children home. This is a really difficult, complex process. Every day we fight to get results. Yesterday was really such, a moment of happiness. More than 190 people returned home, 197. And these are such terrible, terrible moments of war. And they always walk side by side. Moments of tragedy, moments of happiness. When relatives and friends met their relatives at home. These are important steps in diplomacy, and we are very much counting on diplomacy, which will put pressure on Russia. We spoke today with the Prime Minister about concrete ways to strengthen our defense capabilities. We are grateful for Namaz, as I said. They did not let our people down, they protected them from Russian missile strikes. This is important for us. Continue to count on production, for investments in defense production, in our joint productions, that we can create, that we can and should develop. I am sure that Europe now needs a new wave of such industrial technological development, so that the continent has everything it needs to protect itself. And Europe was more independent, stronger in today's global competition, so that Europeans have good modern jobs. and we also have to pay more. More joint attention to the development and protection of infrastructure. We talk about it through our experience. We emphasize that this is very important. Everyone sees how much danger there is now for underwater infrastructure in European seas due to burrow activity. Also, everyone sees how the challenges are changing due to the development of drones. And these are new challenges, completely new technological challenges, to which, in our opinion, each country needs to have its own answer. Also, more work with others in Europe for the sake of safety. Ukraine is ready to join the relevant efforts. And also I invite, and we are working with Norway, within the framework of existing security coalitions. And I am very glad that we have such a partnership for the development of coalitions and air defense and other technological coalitions. We can also do much more together in the production of different types of drones, which is fast in Ukraine now, it is cheaper, and it is effective. In practice, we see this. And I think we are the most efficient today, the fastest in Europe. Or one of those, nevertheless. I am sure that together with Norway we will give much more security to our peoples and the future of Europe. Thank you again for your comprehensive assistance to Norway. It is very nice to be your guest. Thank you. Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to Ukraine. Now we will move on to the questions. The first question is from the Norwegian TV channel TV2. Good afternoon, sir. I'll ask questions in English. So, after what has happened in recent weeks in the ceasefire negotiations, what are your realistic hopes? When can such a ceasefire occur? If you allow me to add, it seems that there is a different understanding in Moscow and Washington as of now. What does a limited ceasefire mean? What things are included there? What is your understanding? Is this a proposal for a limited ceasefire? It includes both civilian infrastructure and energy. Or is it just one thing?
Thank you for asking. I'll speak based on what I've heard and what we agreed on with the American side before their contacts with the Russians. And then my last conversation with President Trump was after his conversation with the Kremlin. We have proposed from the very beginning a ceasefire in the sky and at sea, because it's not as difficult to control as the first step, because they did not believe that the Russians would agree to any ceasefire, because, in our opinion, they want to destroy us, want to continue the war. In short. But the American side told us, no, they want to end the war. We really want to end the war. To him who will argue, let's quickly then take the appropriate steps. And at the meeting in Jeddah, the American side took a leap or a step forward, fast, and said, let's still talk not about a partial ceasefire, but a cessation everywhere. We reacted immediately, right at the meeting, the team contacted me, because this is a change in the agenda from which they were going, and I said right away, we confirm. We confirm. We want to go until the end of the war. Yes, and everyone was very happy. Overall, I think it was a successful meeting. Moreover, I believe that this was our first bilateral meeting with such a result, positive, despite its long duration, almost 9 hours. So, what is important? The fact that after that there was contact between the Americans and the Russians. And again, people took a step backwards, I think, because they started talking about a partial ceasefire. Look, we are ready to take better steps forward. But we are ready, in partnership with the Americans, to take a step back now and talk about a partial ceasefire. Today, from what we talked about with President Trump, the content is as follows. Ceasefire on the security of the energy systems of both countries. That is, without any attacks on energy infrastructure, and it also sounds like this. As well as other civilian infrastructure. I raised this issue with President Trump and said, then, in my opinion, our side will prepare civilian infrastructure facilities, which, in our opinion, are civilian infrastructure. That is, I do not want there to be a different understanding of what the parties will agree on. Or, let's put it this way, God willing, the parties will agree on the next meeting, which will be on Monday in Saudi Arabia. There will be our technical teams. As I understand it, the structure is such that there will be a meeting between Ukraine and America, and then, as American partners said, shuttle diplomacy, and then America with Russia. Or it will be parallel such meetings in one country on the same topic, on the one. What I told you about.
Next question from Bloomberg. The question for you, Mr. President, is the continuation of the energy infrastructure that is being discussed. Is it only the Zaporizhzhia NPP that they are talking about? H. What is being discussed about the fact that the United States has ownership of it? And is the issue of other energy assets of Ukraine as part of the agreements?
Thank you for asking. All nuclear power plants belong to the people of Ukraine. These are state-owned nuclear power plants. This is not private power in our country. Energy, nuclear power in Ukraine. We have thermal generation, we have green energy, there is private energy, there is a private partner, it is completely private energy. This is absolutely clear and correct. But the entire nuclear power plant belongs to the state of Ukraine. And the temporarily occupied Zaporizhzhia region in the city of Energodar, where this occupied station is located, also belongs to the Ukrainian state. And everyone recognizes this, the IAEA recognizes, various international institutions recognize it. Moreover, the personnel who work there are personnel who received constant salaries from the state of Ukraine, and they are citizens of Ukraine. Thus, the Russians changed the management of the plant, and illegally changed. But all the staff, all professionals, all nuclear workers there are Ukrainians. You know how they keep them there. They took children from many of them, took the children, put them on buses, and took them to the territory of the Russian Federation. This is how people work. And so it is. You will do anything for the sake of the child. I'm sure you think just as much as a father can tell you, it's a fact. And so the question of a nuclear power plant that does not work, which is dangerous, because it is served, but it is not properly maintained. Despite the fact that there is supervision there, and IAEA commissions, and this constant inspection is present, everyone understands that it must be cooled down. For this it is constantly necessary to properly support it technically. After the Russians blew up the dam, there is no normal water supply there. That is, this is a complicated process. The station is located in very difficult technical conditions. The question that the Americans are asking us, I don't know if they discussed it with the Russians or not. President Trump asked me, what do you think of this station? I told him that she would work. If she was not Ukrainian, she would not work for anyone. It's illegal, she won't be able to. And we cannot just dispose of this station, because it is state-owned. The question is, and we've heard these voices, if Americans think about it, how to find a way out of this situation. And they want to take it away from the Russians, and they want to invest, modernize. This is a different question. This is an open question. We can talk about it, but we definitely didn't discuss the property issue with President Trump. Moreover, we did not discuss the messages that you are talking about now. I have already seen such messages in the press about the generation in Ukraine as a whole. We will not discuss. We have nuclear power plants operating today with 15 units, all this belongs to our state. We are connected to the European grid. For us, this is a serious guarantee of energy security.
The next question is from the NQF, Norwegian speech. Yes, thank you. Mr. President, in March 2022, you said that you would be ready to discuss neutrality, which means no to Ukraine's membership in NATO. Is this an issue that you are still ready to discuss? Neutrality of Ukraine?
I have never said that I am ready to discuss Ukraine's neutrality. It never sounded like that. The Russians asked this question when they came to us with an ultimatum to us. The first ultimatum that was. The document read. They didn't even offer, they demanded from us. The reduction of the Ukrainian army, I don't remember, is already 50 to 80,000. Imagine the difference. Now this army is holding Russians, it is 800,000. That is, imagine what they wanted. 50 to 80,000, Ukrainian army, neutrality means non-blocking, yes, non-blockade, in principle, any. Then they wanted us to recognize the occupied territories as Russian, and there was a lot of other things there. We've always said that we don't quite understand what we're discussing. This is an ultimatum. This is not a proposal to end the war.
And the last question is AFP. AFP, Mr. President, President Trump is said to be considering recognizing Crimea as Russian territory as part of a way to end the war. Is this something you discussed while talking to him yesterday and in general? Did American officials mention this issue in contacts with Ukraine? What will be the desire to recognize certain territories as Russian?
By the way, I would like to finish the answer to this previous one. A respected journalist asked the question of neutrality. If it was a NATO issue, and if that's what you mean when you talk about neutrality, outside the bloc from NATO, then I always said, unfortunately, we are not accepted into NATO. We really want to. And we believe that this would solve many problems and many questions. We talked with Jonas today, when people are looking for how to strengthen our army, strengthen air defense, how to give money, how to have a lot of military, where to conduct training, what contingent should be, who is in the sky, who is at sea. Or you can just make NATO. It's easier, less hassle, etc. But, again, there's nothing to talk about. The United States of America, as the main ally in NATO, does not support Ukraine in NATO. Today, I think that we can't just give it to Russians. I think it's a great gift to take this topic out of the negotiations. I just think it's wrong. I think so. As for your question about Crimea, Ukrainian Peninsula Crimea, Trump did not raise this issue. We once talked with him about Crimea back in September in New York. He was just interested in what it looked like, what was so about it, why Ukrainians love it so much, because he heard that Ukrainians love Crimea very much. We just talked about it. I told him that this is a unique nature, this is our integral part, this is our Ukrainian peninsula. In addition to all the things, I don't want to take up much time now, except for the things that are clear that without Ukrainians, Crimea is dying because everything. Because all logistics is related to mainland Ukraine, water, logistics. Most importantly, what for tourism? What is the most important thing for tourism? And Crimea is a unique nature, first of all. This is the sea, nature, this is tourism. What is the most important thing for tourism? Everyone will tell you. Tourists, there is no tourism in Crimea. There has been no tourism in Crimea for 11 years. 3 million tourists came to Crimea in the summer. 2,800,000 are Ukrainians. This is the answer. You can do whatever you want. 5 whole hotels, many different buildings. But you will not bring millions of tourists there. Ukrainians rested there because this is their peninsula, and no one will do anything about it. People there now have no salaries, there is nothing there. It's simple, all this nature is just dying.
And with that, we need to end our press conference. Thank you.